clean up or amend broken agreements. How many of you have heard of the broken window theory? A couple of you, one of you has heard of the broken window theory. So the broken window, I'll give you a brief background. The broken window theory was developed by a couple of sociologists to explain why neighborhoods deteriorated. So we're very interested in the evolution of urban decay and what was it that contributed to those. And so they came up with this broken window theory. And the broken window theory goes something like this. Take an abandoned building and break a window in it. If the window is not repaired or not restored, all the windows in the building will then be broken. And if all the windows in the building are then broken, then as people come by the building, they'll begin to throw trash into the property because after all, the windows are deteriorated. And so there'll be low-level litter, and then there'll be higher levels of litter, and then you'll start getting indigents to move in and low-level low-level quality of life crimes. You know, you get people who are light users of drugs, and then you get the people who are crashing there and they're having their drinking binges. And then other criminals begin to see, well, nobody's cleaning that up, so it makes it a more acceptable area. And so higher level crime moves in. And people in the neighborhood slowly withdraw from the area because it's becoming less and less attractive, so they leave more room for this decay to keep spreading, and so it spreads. It's sort of like, for the want of the nail, a kingdom was lost kind of idea. So one of the interesting experiments with that was done by a psychologist who put a car in Harlem to find out what would happen to the car, and after a matter of hours it was completely stripped. You know, but not until somebody broke the headlight. So the car sat there, and the car sat there, and the car sat there, and then the headlight got broken, and in a matter of hours, the whole thing is stripped. And it's stripped by everybody that walked by. It wasn't just stripped by African Americans, it was stripped by whites, it was stripped by Hispanics, it was stripped by couples, it was stripped by families. It was stripped by everybody. They all had a part in taking the car apart. Yeah, but that's Harlem. So they did the same thing in Palo Alto. And they had the car on the streets in Palo Alto. Nothing happened to it, nothing happened to it, so they broke the windshield, and what do you think happened? Car got completely stripped. That's in Palo Alto. It did major damage to the whole idea. This particular study did major damage to the whole idea that vandalism and crime is by a particular social economic class. Probably the best application of it, and you can read about it in Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, because he goes through considerable detail on it, was the application of the broken window theory to New York City by Giuliani and his, both the police chief and the head of, I can't remember, it's transportation, the subways and stuff. So one of the things that they were looking at was ridership on the subways was going way down. Crime around the subways was going way up. What were they going to do about it? And the solution that they came up with was we're going to implement the broken windows theory. So they stopped turnstile jumpers, and they cleaned up all the stations, the platforms in the stations, cleaned the graffiti off of all the cars. Now if a car gets graffitied, it's immediately pulled off and cleaned down. And you know, people in New York said, why don't you really invest in real crime? And but they kept doing that, and the crime rate went up, went down, and the ridership went up. And then they extended that outside. The police, Bratton at that time, then extended it outside of that, and they started taking on quality of life crimes in New York City. So they did the squeegee guys. If you've ever been in New York City and you stop at the light, they want to come up and do your windows. And you know, people sleeping in the stoops of the townhouses. They got rid of all that stuff. And the crime rate went down. Major crime rate went down. Now the thing that's really interesting about that, from our standpoint, one is it's also an indication of what happens in networks. But from our standpoint, what's interesting is there was no wholesale buy-in. There was no let's train everybody in the city of New York. There was not let's replace the population of New York City. These were very specific actions that were taken that had a profound impact beyond what you and I would expect them to have. And it's very hard to figure how it is stopping turnstile jumpers and people who are urinating on the platforms of the subway could contribute to the reduction of major crime in the city. That just doesn't make sense. However, if you look at it from the standpoint of broken agreements, you get the same idea. One broken agreement not repaired justifies all broken agreements not being repaired. And when broken agreements are no longer repaired, people no longer have trust in the agreements. So they have to come up with another calculus for deciding what to do and what not to do. And that calculus is not based on agreements, it's based on something else. It may be based on who knows who, who's in bed with who, what the political arrangements are, the power. So a different structure begins to emerge as to what the basis for doing stuff is. So for you and me, if I make an agreement with Keith, and Keith and I don't keep that agreement, first time, maybe not a big deal. He'll notice, I'll notice. Second time, oh, you know, Ford keeps making these agreements, but he doesn't keep them. And nothing happens. There's no follow-up, there's no accounting for, there's nothing. Eventually what will happen is Keith and I will enter into a relationship as come can. I will have some of my agreements kept and he will keep some of his, and we'll level at some particular level of performance which neither one of us will be able to break through. And it will be given not because he's not competent, not because he's not motivated, not because he's not intelligent. It will be given by the fact that what's missing is a background of credibility or trust sufficient to go beyond where we are. That's from not amending broken agreements. I'd have you consider there is no such thing as a trivial agreement that got broken. So we need to amend them. How do we do that? The first thing is to recognize you had an agreement. What do you mean recognize you had an agreement? Did you say you would do anything? Yep, you got an agreement. Yeah, but I didn't really mean it. Yeah, you did. It doesn't matter. You said you would agree. If you said yes, you got an agreement. And your sincerity or your mood at the time doesn't matter. What matters is that the other person thinks that there's an agreement. Recognize an agreement's been broken. Report on the status. What's broken? So Todd, it seems to me you and I had an agreement, and I believe the agreement was that it was due on Friday. And he'd say, yeah, that's right. Oh, well, I'm not going to have that for you. What's broken is I'm not going to have it for you by Friday. Everything will be complete, but I won't have it by Friday. So what's broken is the due date. What's broken is the quality. What's broken is the quantity. What's broken is the completeness. What's broken is what's included in the package. So there's always something specifically as to what's broken, what's not being kept. Repair it. How many of you have paid a price with a boss or somebody else hiring the organization as a result of someone else in your organization not doing what they said they would do for you? Any of you paid that price? Now, when you paid that price, do the people that didn't do that for you, do they know the reality of that price you paid? Not like, hey, you know, I got in a lot of trouble with my boss. No, no, really, what was the cost of that? What's the consequence of their failure to deliver? Really, what was the cost? We don't let people know. When you and I don't keep our agreements, there's a real, no kidding cost to people. And in some cases, the cost is relatively trivial for them, but in some cases, it's really, really important. I mean, it's really significant. But if I don't have a conversation in the beginning, like we talked about with a performance conversation, in which I've done the work to have a good agreement, a good promise, how would he know the consequences of what would happen if I don't do that? So we have a circumstance in which we've made it possible for people not to create the agreements because they don't really get the consequence of not keeping the agreement. Not the consequence to them, the consequence broader. Most of us would be really bothered by what we've had other people go through as a result of not keeping our agreements. Most of us. Now some of them it's like, you mean that's all you got? I need to work harder because you need to pay more. Recommit by making a new agreement. You could create a new agreement. So I want to clean up the consequences. What is it I can do? So if I make a promise to Mike and I'm not going to keep it, and I go in and I talk to him and I say, look, Mike, I know you said you needed to have this. I'm clearly not going to have it. What can I do to make it better? What has to happen in order for you to be able to win? You know, do I need to work later? Do I need to do some other? What will work is being responsible for the fact that I broke the agreement with him.